YouTube. Today I'm going to be talking about WandaVision, and I think I'm going to talk about something that nobody has really talked about in the format of the show. Um, like this show is all about grieving, and if you want to take a psychology class, there's 5 stages of grieving. There's denial, anger, then bargaining, then depression, and finally acceptance. So if you look at those 5 things, you're going to find that a lot of these elements are in the show. So I'm going to go through every single one and, show each episode and show you where these 5 stages came into the show. Okay, so the first stage is denial. And in this instance, we see in the first episode, she couldn't remember the date on the calendar. So right then and there, her memory is kind of blocked, and she's in denial of like her past and the people who have died, like her brother, her parents, and finally Vision. So she can't remember how she got there. They can't remember their wedding. They can't remember, anything. And in the commercial in the first episode, their motto or their quote is, "Forget the past. This is the future." So she's forgetting all of the past, and she's looking at this new reality as her future. The second stage that she goes through is anger. And then when Monica comes up and brings up that Ultron killed her brother, she immediately gets really angry, throws her out of the hex. And then another instance is she hit Pietro after he said something about Vision dying twice. And then when the military sword came in and tried to throw a missile at her, she goes outside the hex, throws the drone outside the hex, and at the very last episode, she kind of chokes out the whole town because, she's again in denial, but she's angry, and so she just starts choking everybody. So bargaining is the third stage, and she starts having this argument with Vision in the third or fourth episode. It was the 80s episode where she says, "I don't control you," or "I can't control you, I control everybody else," and then another example is Pietro sitting there asking her "I'm surprised I'm impressed about how you're doing this stuff," and she's asking him, "Do you think this is wrong?" She's kind of bargaining, she's in kind of saying, "This is what I'm doing. This is what I want to do because this makes me happy," and she's kind of trying to convince herself that what she's doing is right. So she's kind of bargaining with that. So finally, in the fourth stage, she gets really depressed, and a really good example of this is in episode 7, where she just wants to lay around all day. This is a perfect depression. She just doesn't want to do anything, and she also feels like she's losing control. A lot of people, a lot of people that are depressed, they feel like they're losing control of their life. So she's losing control of her powers, and that's why everything in her reality is changing to different eras, and the TV's changing, and the furniture's changing, and the milk is changing. So she's just losing all control, and then the Nexus commercial is just blatantly saying, you're depressed and you need to take this medicine to control your life, and it kind of says, "You can't control your life because the world doesn't revolve around you," or does it? She's kind of a play on words about, is she really in control of her stuff, or world around her? Finally, we come to acceptance, and then she finally, at the last episode, she finally accepts that, she needs to put everything back together and, face the reality that her husband is dead, and that her kids weren't real, and that she has to close the hex to, make everything back to normal. And she also has to accept that, she's done wrong, and she disappears and goes off to like a cabin in the mountains. But then it kind of like comes around where she's like, she doesn't want to accept that her kids are gone, so she's trying to open up a doorway, I think, to another reality to get her kids back. So maybe it's repeating herself and then she's in denial again. I don't know, we'll have to find out in the future iterations of Marvel and see what happens. So anyway, there you have it. There's the 5 stages of Wanda's grief. Thanks for joining me.